Phil Robertson, the duck commander patriarch who turned a homemade duck call into a $400 million merchandise empire, died on May 25, 2025, leaving behind an estimated $10 million fortune and a family legacy that reaches far beyond money. His death at age 79 following a battle with Alzheimer's disease marked the end of an era for one of reality television's most influential and controversial figures, a man who went from living in a log cabin without electricity to becoming a household name watched by nearly 12 million viewers every week. And here's what makes this story worth telling. That $10 million represents just a fraction of what the Robertson family built together, with their combined wealth now exceeding $80 million. Understanding how they got there requires going back to a small Louisiana town, a gifted quarterback who turned down the NFL, and a man who once described himself as an evil man, just a sinful scumbag, before finding redemption. April 24, 1946 brought Phil Alexander Robertson into the world in Vivian, Louisiana, a small town near Shreveport, where his father James worked oil rigs and his mother Merritt raised 7 children. Phil landed in the middle as the 5th child, with his brother C arriving 2 years later to eventually become a scene-stealing character on the family's television show. Poverty defined their childhood in ways most Americans today wouldn't recognize. That log cabin had no electricity running through it, no water from pipes, no toilet, and no bathtub, which meant the Robertson family lived, as Phil put it, like it was the 1850s. Growing their own food, hunting deer and squirrels, and raising livestock kept them alive. And that upbringing in the Louisiana woods shaped everything that came after, instilling a passion for hunting and self-sufficiency that would eventually generate millions. What came first, though, was football stardom. Louisiana Tech University gave Phil Robertson a quarterback position for 2 seasons in 1967, where his arm produced 179 completions out of 411 attempts for 2,237 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 34 interceptions across 16 games as a starter. Those numbers don't reveal the most interesting part, which is that Phil Robertson started ahead of Terry Bradshaw, the man who would become the #1 overall pick in the 1970 NFL Draft and a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Washington Redskins scouts approached Phil about playing professionally. He turned them down. His explanation became legendary. "Terry went for the Bucks, and I chased after the Ducks." Bradshaw wrote about Robertson in his 2001 book, painting a picture of a man whose priorities confused everyone around him. Phil Robertson loved hunting more than he loved football. He'd come to practice directly from the woods, squirrel tails hanging out of his pockets, duck feathers on his clothes. Night classes at Louisiana Tech earned Phil both a bachelor's degree in physical education and a master's degree in education. But the outdoors remained his true calling. Before Duck Commander made Phil Robertson rich, and before religion transformed him, a dark chapter unfolded that the family has discussed openly over the years. Kay entered Phil's life during high school. They started dating in 1964, and January 11, 1966 brought their wedding day when Kay was just 16 years old. Struggle, not success, marked their early years together. Through the late 1960s and into the mid-1970s, while Phil moved through his 20s, he spiraled into what he called a sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle. Commercial fishing became his work, and by 1975 he was running a honky-tonk bar while heavy drinking, marijuana, pills, and multiple affairs consumed his life. And this is where it gets worse. Phil assaulted a bar owner and his wife, forcing Kay to pay from their life savings to prevent charges. Months in the woods followed as he fled the consequences, abandoning Kay and their young sons entirely. Rock bottom came when Phil kicked Kay and their 3 boys out of the house after she became a Christian, threw Thanksgiving dinner on the floor, and left drunk. Phil's own description of this period pulls no punches. "I was an evil man, just a sinful scumbag, before I ran up on him," referring to Jesus. Transformation arrived around 1974 or 1975, when Phil hit approximately 28 years old. A preacher that Kay had encouraged him to meet explained the gospel, and that same night Phil received baptism at White's Ferry Road Church. Membership and eventually elder status at White's Ferry Road Church of Christ in West Monroe, Louisiana followed, and over the decades he baptized thousands of people in the Ouachita River. Frustration with existing products sparked the business that changed everything. Phil Robertson couldn't find commercial duck calls in the early 1970s that actually sounded like real ducks, and that problem nagged at him as a serious hunter. His goal was creating a duck call designed for duck killers, as opposed to world champion-style duck callers. 1972 brought a hunting trip to Moss Lake on the Arkansas-Louisiana state line, where a friend made an observation after hearing Phil work the call. "You don't just call the ducks, you command them." Duck Commander had its name. Incorporation came in 1973, and that first year produced sales of between 500 and 600 duck calls, bringing in $8,000. 25 years of building those calls in a dilapidated boat followed, with Phil traveling store to store trying to convince owners to stock his product. Rejection met him constantly, and a large store in Stuttgart, Arkansas actually laughed him out of the building. That same store would later become one of Duck Commander's largest accounts. Company headquarters took root at 117 Kings Lane in West Monroe, Louisiana, where operations remain today. 4 sons arrived over the years for Phil and Kay. Alan came first on January 5, 1965, followed by Jason, who goes by Jace, on August 16th. William, known as Willie, entered the world on April 22, 1972, and Jules Jephthah, called Jep, rounded out the family on May 28. Each son eventually found his place in the family operation. But Willie would prove to be the one who transformed Duck Commander from regional success into national phenomenon. Willie Robertson assumed the CEO position at Duck Commander in 2002 when he turned 30 years old, and growth accelerated beyond anything Phil had imagined. The real explosion arrived in 2012. March 21st of that year brought Duck Dynasty to A&E, following the Robertson family as they navigated both the duck call business and their larger-than-life personalities. Phil, with his long beard and bandana, became the patriarch figure audiences couldn't resist, while Miss Kay's cooking, Uncle Si's rambling stories, and Willie's attempts to modernize the business while respecting tradition connected with viewers in ways the network never anticipated. The Season 4 premiere tells you everything about how big the show became. August 14, 2013, drew 11.8 million viewers, making it the most-watched non-fiction series telecast in cable TV history at that point. Fall 2013 numbers showed the show averaging 14.6 million viewers when counting delayed viewing. What that meant for the duck call business was staggering. Before Duck Dynasty, Duck Commander moved approximately 60,000 duck calls annually. But at the show's 2013 peak, that number exploded past 750,000 calls per year. Duck call revenue alone reached an estimated $40 to $45 million, with calls selling for an average of about $60 each. Duck calls represented just the beginning, though. Merchandise, licensing deals, product tie-ins, t-shirts, and home goods bearing the Duck Commander or Duck Dynasty name generated approximately $400 million in peak revenue during 2013, and A&E reportedly pulled in $80 to $100 million advertising revenue from the show. Family salaries reflected their newfound status dramatically. Early seasons brought approximately $40,000 per episode split among the family members, but by Season 4 in 2013, that figure jumped past $200,000 per episode divided among roughly 20 cast members. Peak popularity brought peak controversy, and Phil Robertson nearly destroyed everything in December 2013. GQ magazine published an interview that month conducted by writer Drew Magary, titled "What the Duck?" and containing quotes that ignited a national firestorm within hours. Phil's words on homosexuality landed first. Start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Bestiality, sleeping around with this woman and that woman and that woman and those men. More followed. It seems like, to me, a vagina, as a man, would be more desirable than a man's anus. That's just me. I'm just thinking, there's more there. She's got more to offer. Comments about race relations and the Jim Crow era drew additional criticism. I never, with my eyes, saw the mistreatment of any black person. Not once. Where we lived was all farmers. The blacks worked for the farmers. I hoed cotton with them. I'm with the blacks because we're white trash. And then, pre-entitlement, pre-welfare, you say. Were they happy? They were godly. They were happy. no one was singing the blues. December 18, 2013 brought A&E's response: indefinite hiatus from filming for Phil Robertson. Network executives released a statement. "We are extremely disappointed to have read Phil Robertson's comments in GQ, which are based on his own personal beliefs and are not reflected in the series Duck Dynasty." What nobody expected was what happened next, which demonstrated exactly how powerful the show's fan base had grown. Over 260,000 signatures piled up at estonwithphil.com demanding reinstatement, while conservative politicians and religious leaders rallied to his defense, and backlash against A&E proved immediate and intense. 9 days. That's how long the suspension lasted before A&E reversed course on December 27, 2013, welcoming Phil back to the show. The suspension had no practical effect anyway because filming had already wrapped for the season. Controversial statements continued flowing from Phil in subsequent years. CPAC 2015 brought a graphic anecdote about an atheist family being raped and murdered, plus claims that sexually transmitted diseases represented the legacy of Nazis, communists, beatniks, and hippies. Another video captured him advising men to marry girls when they are about 15 or 16. Apologies never came. Phil remained unapologetic about his beliefs and his willingness to voice them publicly. 11 seasons and between 130 and 132 episodes concluded on March 29, 2017, with an episode titled End of an Era. Final season viewership averaged only about 1 million viewers per episode, a dramatic collapse from that 11.8 million peak just a few years earlier. Multiple factors drove the decline. Ratings had been sliding steadily since the GQ controversy. 2 seasons per year had caused viewer fatigue, and the family wanted to pursue different ventures. Ending Duck Dynasty didn't end the Robertson family's public presence, though. In the Woods with Phil launched on Blaze TV in 2017, running for approximately 800 episodes through 2020. 2018 brought the Unashamed podcast with sons Al and Jace, eventually producing over 1,200 episodes at a pace of 4 per week. Publishing became another avenue for Phil. Happy, 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 My Life and Legacy as the Duck Commander hit shelves in 2013 and became a #1 New York Times bestseller, moving approximately 1 million copies. Unfiltered, The Way I See It followed in 2014. Then The Theft of America's Soul in 2019. Jesus Politics, How to Win Back the Soul of America in 2020. Uncancelled in 2022. Your Daily Phil in 2022. And I Could Be Wrong, But I Doubt It in 2024. Speaking fees ranged from $30,000 to $50,000 per engagement, and hundreds of churches and organizations booked him every year at the height of his popularity. 2023 brought The Blind, a biographical film depicting Phil and Kay's early life and his transformation from wild years to Christian faith. May 2020 brought a stunning announcement on the Unashamed podcast. Phil had a daughter he'd never known existed. Her name was Phyllis, and she was 45 years old when the truth emerged. November 2019 had brought an ancestry DNA test taken by Phyllis's son, revealing unexpected results that led to further testing showing a 99.9% match to Phil Robertson. Phyllis was the result of an extramarital affair from Phil's wild years in the 1970s. February 21, 2020 brought the first meeting between father and daughter, and Phil's first words to her were simple: "I had no idea." Miss Kay's response revealed decades of faith and capacity for forgiveness within her. She called Phyllis the daughter I always prayed for. The Robertson family welcomed Phyllis completely, and she would eventually stand at Phil's bedside in his final hours. Political involvement intensified during Phil's later years. 2013 brought an endorsement of Vance McAllister for Congress in Louisiana, followed by backing Ted Cruz during the 2016 Republican primary before supporting Donald Trump in the general election. 2017 brought an endorsement of Roy Moore for the Alabama Senate race. Connections to conservative political figures ran deep and genuine. Senator Ted Cruz shared after Phil's death, "The great Phil Robertson passed today. He loved Jesus and he was utterly fearless. One of my fondest memories was duck hunting with Phil. He was the best shot I ever met." Donald Trump Jr. called Phil an absolute legend and recounted that Phil's first words to him were direct as always: I hear you can shoot. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders offered, Phil Robertson was a living example of what God can do in all of our lives if we follow him. December 2024 brought the announcement the family had been dreading. The Unashamed podcast revealed Phil's Alzheimer's diagnosis, and son Jace disclosed that Phil also suffered from a blood disease causing complications and accelerating his decline. Final months brought constant pain, with Phil barely able to walk without crying out, and speech had mostly abandoned him. Those who remained close reported his final coherent words included "full strength ahead," and when Jace mentioned that Phil would be meeting Jesus, his father responded, "Let's go, take me, take me." Sunday, May 25, 2025 brought Phil Robertson's death at his home in West Monroe, Louisiana, at 79 years old. 3 people remained at his side when he passed. Kay, his wife of 59 years, Reed, his grandson and Jace's son, and Phyllis, the daughter he had only known for the final 5 years of his life. Thursday, May 29, 2025 brought the funeral, a private family ceremony handled by Mulhern Funeral Home in West Monroe that drew approximately 400 people. All 4 sons spoke, Alan, Jace, Willie, and Jep, along with Phyllis. Phil's Bible lay open on his casket to Matthew 28. Specific instructions had been left for this moment. "Do not cry at my funeral. I know where I'm going." Mount Gilead Cemetery in Vivian, Louisiana received his remains, returning him to the small town where everything began 79 years earlier. Daughter-in-law Corey Robertson posted the official family statement. "We celebrate today that our father, husband, and grandfather, Phil Robertson, is now with the Lord." He reminded us often of the words of Paul, "You do not grieve like those who have no hope, for we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him." Thank you for the love and prayers of so many whose lives have been impacted by his life saved by grace, his bold faith, and by his desire to tell everyone who would listen the good news of Jesus. Jace Robertson's social media post captured simpler sentiments. "My dad has gone to be with the Lord today. He will be missed, but we know he is in good hands, and our family is good because God is very good. We will see him again." A&E, the network that had both elevated and suspended Phil Robertson, released its own words. "We are saddened to hear of the passing of Phil Robertson, a hunting industry pioneer and the patriarch of the beloved Robertson family." West Monroe announced plans for a memorial statue at the downtown Riverfront Park, scheduled for September 20. $10 million represented Phil Robertson's personal fortune. A substantial sum, but just a piece of what the family constructed together. Willie Robertson, the CEO who transformed Duck Commander into a national brand, carries an estimated net worth of $45 million, while his wife Corey holds approximately $40 million. Miss Kay's net worth sits at an estimated $15 million. Jace Robertson has accumulated approximately $8 to $10 million, Uncle Cy around $8 million, Jep approximately $8 million, and Alan between $4 and $5 million. Even granddaughter Sadie Robertson has built a net worth of $3 to $4 million. Combined Robertson family wealth exceeds $80 million. Modest living defined Phil despite his wealth, as he resided in a 2,500 square foot home on 7 acres in West Monroe, a structure built in 1960. His lifestyle never matched his bank account, which remained consistent with the image he projected throughout public life. Duck Commander continues operating at 117 Kings Lane, employing between 24 and 28 people. Willie remains CEO while Jace oversees manufacturing, hand-tuning all the duck calls just as he has for decades. Annual revenue runs approximately $14 million now, far from that $400 million merchandise peak of 2013, but still representing a thriving family business. 1 week after Phil's death, on June 1, 2025, Duck Dynasty, the revival, premiered on A&E with 20 episodes ordered. Phil did not appear in the revival, both because declining health had consumed his final months and for other reasons the family hasn't fully disclosed. The Unashamed podcast continues with Al, Jace, and Zach Dasher as hosts, carrying forward the ministry Phil helped establish. Donations in lieu of flowers went to the Mia Moo Fund, Camp Chaw Co, All God's Children, and One Kingdom, charities reflecting Phil's values and faith. Phil Robertson's legacy defies simple description, as the legacies of controversial figures often do. Here stood a man who turned down professional football to chase ducks, hit rock bottom with alcohol and infidelity before finding redemption, built a duck call business from nothing, and watched his sons turn it into a cultural phenomenon. Millions found his words inspiring, while millions more found them deeply offensive, sometimes from the same interview. His official obituary captured the family's perspective. While known to so many as the Duck Commander, he was simply Phil, Dad, Papa Phil, and the rock of our family to us. A log cabin without electricity gave him his start, and a family fortune exceeding $80 million marked his finish. 59 years with the same woman, 4 sons, 1 daughter discovered at 74, 19 grandchildren, and more than 13 great-grandchildren filled the years between. Funeral instructions had been clear. Don't cry, because he knew where he was going. And in those final moments when Jace told him he'd be meeting Jesus soon, the Duck Commander delivered his response. Let's go. Take me. Take me.